Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back. We are in Esther chapter 6 this morning, as we've been taking a chapter each week and studying the life of Esther. How did you do this last week? When that person that you don't really get along with walked by, did it change your mood? I hope at least this last week it kind of got you thinking, where you could at least see that when that was coming, like, oh, I really do that. I hope you took some time to think of things that you're thankful for. Boys and girls, we are blessed by so many things. I had noted to you guys that I journal at the end of the day. I remember one day I was super hot driving the bus, and I came home and I literally journaled I was thankful for air conditioning. So many things that we take for granted, boys and girls, that we have and we can be thankful for. So I hope this last week you took time to thank God for many of the things that you have. So chapter 6, we had left it off with they had had a banquet, they meaning Haman, and the king had had a banquet with the queen. And the king had promised her up to half of his kingdom if she wanted it. And her request was, come back tomorrow. Let's have another banquet. So now it's that night, and Haman goes home. He has passed Mordecai. He's angry. But we have got the king who goes to sleep, and he tosses this way and he tosses that way, and he sits up and he lays down and he fixes his blanket and he asks his mommy for water. Okay, just kidding. He didn't ask his mommy for water, I don't think. But he does all of these things and he just can't fall asleep. So he's like, all right, I got it. Bring me the record books. Read me those books and then I will fall asleep. So they bring him the record books and they start reading to him, and they read to him about the time when Mordecai had told Esther about the two men who were plotting against the king's life. And the king's like, well, you just read me that, but it didn't say we did anything to honor that man. We didn't do anything to reward him, and we haven't done anything. And the king has this in the back of his mind that he needs to reward Mordecai. Well, fast forward to the next morning. Haman comes in and the king's like, hey, Haman, if there's somebody I wanted to honor, what should I do to honor him? And Haman's like, well, I've had those 2 special dinners and he just promoted me, and I bet he wants to reward me. So what would I want? And Haman starts to think, what is it that I would want? Well, let's see what Haman says the man that the king wants to reward should get. Sorry, I was looking at chapter 7. I'm never going to find the answer in chapter 7 because we're in chapter 6. Verse number 3, and the king said, what honor and dignity hath been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done to him. So when the king is asking what's been done, no, they say nothing has been done. Verse 5, and the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in. And the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to honor? More than to myself. And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of the one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man with all whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. He's like, all right, you bring the crown, you bring the robes, you dress him up, you put him on a horse, and you make somebody of high authority lead him through the town, saying this is what the king does to the one he wants to honor. And Haman, the whole time he's like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. I get to wear the king's clothes, I get to ride the king's horse. This is going to be great. Somebody's going to lead me through the town and give me recognition. This is awesome. And is it really Haman that the king... No. Who is it the king wants to honor? Mordecai. Haman's enemy. All right, so we leave off, though, with where we read that Haman's like super excited, super pumped up. Verse 10, then the king said to Haman, make haste and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. Imagine how his heart fell. Okay, maybe you've been at awards day and you thought you were going to get an award or a certificate and it went to somebody else. Okay, this is like way worse because it's going to get even worse. Verse 11, then took Haman the apparel and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and brought him on horseback through the streets of the city and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. So not only did it not get done to Haman, it got done to his enemy Mordecai, and Haman had to be the one to lead him through the city and say this is what happens to the one the king delights to honor. Ouch. What a fall for Haman. Now, boys and girls, don't feel too bad for him. He kind of deserved it. But can you imagine being so high, like, yes, this is awesome, to those feelings of so low, of just the shame of having to do all that he had said unto Mordecai, his enemy. Mordecai returns to the king's gate. Haman goes home. Verse 12 tells us he covers his head. He's mourning. He's so disappointed in what's upset. So when he goes home, who do you think he talks to, boys and girls? Let's look at verse 13. And Haman told Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shall surely fall before him. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. His wife says to him, I don't think you're going to win, okay? You have done all this against the Jews, and Mordecai's one of these Jews, and what I see unfolding, I don't think you're going to win. Now remember, boys and girls, Haman had gone to the king that day fully prepared to ask to put Mordecai in the gallows. And he ends up leading him around the town and honoring him. So in the morning, he set off like, yeah, I'm going to take care of my enemy. He comes home and he's like, yeah, my enemy just in a roundabout sort of way took care of me. So boys and girls, bitterness hurts the one who is bitter. Oftentimes we think we're getting back at the person we're angry with. He thinks he's getting back at Mordecai. And God is taking care of the sin that's in Haman's life. Bitterness hurts the person who's bitter. You've probably heard the saying, it's like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. That idea that it only hurts you. Now, sin affects those around us. But boys and girls, we often think that if we're bitter towards someone, we're hurting them, but we're really just hurting ourselves. Don't seek revenge. Let God take care of it. Haman is all out to get Mordecai. Now, Haman's unsaved. Mordecai's a Jew. So in a sense, it's different. But don't seek revenge. Let God take care of it. It's so hard to let go sometimes. It's so hard to not look at that person and think, I want to get even. I want to get back. Or at least I'm going to build up a wall. I'm not going to talk to you. But boys and girls, that's not God's plan for us. We want to take charge. We want to settle the score. But that's not what God wants. When you're having a difficult time, boys and girls, don't run first to your friends. Now, God gives us godly friends who we can seek wise counsel. But the first person we should be running to is God. And God has given you parents. He's given you authorities. And again, we have godly friends. God wants us to have friends in fellowship. But they shouldn't be the first people that we're running to when we have a difficult time. God gave us those friends and family and Christian brothers and sisters, but in a difficult time, we should run to Christ first. We should pray about it. And then as we've asked God for wisdom, talk to the godly people around us to help us understand what God wants us to do. Well, boys and girls, we have unpacked a lot, but the Jews are still scheduled to be killed. We have set it up. We're going to start next week with the next dinner, but we leave off in chapter 6 with they showed up to take Haman.